city council chambers located at 429 C Street. This is the May 7th regular scheduled meeting. Please silence all electronic devices as a courtesy to those in attendance. Thank you. If you could please stand for the invocation by Mr. Kootenai and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Living God, we thank you for the opportunities you give us, Father. And we ask you would be with this time today, be with the leadership here, be with all those involved in the city leadership, Father, that they would have discernment from a God that we know and love, Father. We thank you for being that God, a God of all. And we ask this in your Son's holy name. Amen. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Crystal, roll call.
Councilmember Garza.
Here.
Councilmember Lyons.
Present.
Councilmember Orth.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gornick.
Here.
Mayor Matthews.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda approval, additions and or deletions. There are none. We'll go ahead and go to ceremonial presentation. 1-1, retirement recognition, Ignacio Carrillo. With Mr. Rivera and myself. Would you like to go first, Mr. Rivera? Are you sure? Okay. Let's have a small little blurb. Do you want to go ahead and like come up so everybody could see you, Nacho?
Yeah, Notch, get up.
Yeah, I know I said Ignacio. Everybody knows she is Nacho. Ignacio Nacho Carrillo makes you sound like a boxer, huh? Was hired with the city of Lemoore on May 3rd, 1993 as a part-time laborer in the refuse division in Public Works. His hourly rate at the time was $6 per hour. On January 16th, 1995, he was hired as a full-time maintenance worker 1 in the sewer division. In November 1995, Nacho transferred from the sewer division to the streets division, where he worked for approximately 10 years. In September of 2005, Nacho transferred to his final destination. That doesn't sound good. The refuse division, where he started as a maintenance worker 2. In 2014, he was promoted to senior maintenance worker, refuse coordinator in 2015, and superintendent in 2017. While Nacho worked in the refuse division, he also attended the police academy on his days off, and after he graduated from the academy, he served as reserve officer for Lemoore and Kings County for some time. Nacho retired from the city of Lemoore on December 29th, 2023, with almost 30 years of service. Nacho was a very resourceful and dependable employee. He took pride in his duties daily and earned the respect and loyalty of his team in the refuse division. He was a valuable asset to the city of Lemoore. The city of Lemoore would like to thank Nacho Carrillo for his hard work, dedication, and positive impact to the city and residents of Lemoore through his contributions in sewer, streets, public safety, and refuse. We would like to congratulate Nacho on his wonderful career in retirement.
Anyway, I would also like to, oh, sorry.
Oh, you get to stay up here.
Oh, you want
You worked for us 30 years.
No, not
It ain't
yet.
over yet.
I would like to also congratulate you on retirement and being a friend of mine for many, many years. I will always remember my younger years when we played in the city softball and basketball leagues. I especially enjoyed the after-game refreshments that we shared in the parking lot and hearing you make fun of wherever you felt like and hearing and seeing all your impersonations. I'll never forget that. When Russell Giron left in 2017, you continued to carry the pride of the refuse division, always providing top-notch service and great work ethics to all Lemoore citizens. Today, Chris Benuelos accepted the position of refuse superintendent, so we'd like to congratulate Chris Benuelos. I know he'll continue where you left off. Lastly, I want to congratulate you and Berta on your greatest accomplishment, which is a long, loving marriage and raising 2 amazing kids, Nacho Jr. and Clarissa. Thank you very much, Nacho.
Speech.
speech.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Thank you to everybody that's here. A lot of people I've known since I was a part-timer here. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're not done with you yet.
One, two, three. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any good stories about Nacho? I do. I got some. Oh, okay. Well, never mind. We'll wait.
Our study session items, 2-1, transaction taxes 101 HDL companies. My apologies. We're going to break for a brief moment. We have some refreshments to celebrate Nacho.
Beer.
What do we got? We got some nachos and beer?
Not just me. It's out there.
Where?
Nachos and beer. For the next couple of weeks, we're gonna do that.
That's how many, that's exactly. I knew, but I got a couple of things that were my graduate. So-
Are we good, Marissa? Are we good?
We're good.
Okay, welcome back. Moving on to study session 2-2, transition taxes 101 HDL companies, Mr. Northcraft.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. By Zoom, let me introduce Wayne Padilla. He's a principal with HDL Companies. I think that dates back to Hinderleiter was the original name of the company. They've been a great sales tax analysis company for cities and agencies in California for, I think, over 2 decades. I've used them in several cities. They do an excellent job. It helps us keep track of our revenue producers in our community. And Wayne volunteered to present to you tonight a brief review of our sales tax and the possibilities of how a district tax might be handled differently. So if Wayne's online, we'll move to him.
Thank you, Kevin. I need the host to allow me to share my screen, please. So Mayor Matthews, while we wait for the screen share, I trust everybody can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Still unable to share my screen. We'll get that sorted out, I'm sure, in a second. So Mayor Matthews, let me just start off by saying thank you, and thank you to the rest of the council for inviting us in. I thought it important to have this discussion as you consider whether or not you wish to implement a transactions tax. Just mainly so that you understand the nature of the tax, how it differs from the Bradley-Burns tax. And here we go. And essentially, I wanted to help explain why the estimate that we're now providing is so much different from the estimate that was originally determined by staff. And it's because the tax works differently. So you have the full slide deck included in your agenda package. Kevin bet me a steak dinner that I can't get through this in less than 10 minutes. So I'm not going to go through every slide that you have. I don't think that's necessary. I'm going to go through those I think that are most essential. And feel free as I go through the slides, if you have questions, please just interject the question. We can take it there. And then there's an opportunity at the end to further debate and ask questions about what you're seeing. So let me bring this up here, get my slideshow rolling. Working a minute ago. This doesn't count towards the 10 minutes, Kevin.
Okay.
I apologize. I'm not sure why this is not advancing.
Guys, advance it. He says next slide.
But Kevin, let's go ahead. I guess do you have it up on your end?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and advance to the next slide.
If you just say next slide, that will move it forward.
Okay, and let me get my view back here. I'm not able to see into the room to know where you're at.
Share it.
I'm sorry, give me a minute here. I don't know why this is being so.
So we can share our screen and then you can see what we're sharing.
That would be great.
Okay, you should be able to see our screen.
Let me. Not really. Okay. Not really able to see it too well. Let's go to the second slide, please. Okay, so just going to give you, there we go. Just going to give you just a brief transaction and use tax history lesson real quick. Next slide, please. So transaction and use tax actually goes by several different names. It's transaction and use tax. It's an add-on tax. also called a district tax. And the reason it's called a district tax is because you're defining a tax rate for a specific area. In this case, you're considering whether to add within the boundaries of the city of Lemoore an additional tax or adding on a tax. The authority for this is fairly recent. As recent as, let me get this, I'm sorry. I'm trying to advance my slides so I can see, let me get this back over here. So as recent as 2004, cities were able to seek voter approval for a transaction and use tax override. And there is legislative authority to allow that to happen. One of the things to keep in mind, however you define the tax that you're considering, whether it be a general tax or a tax to fund specific types of services, it takes, on the city council, it takes 2/3 of your members' approval to move this forward to a ballot measure. Now that's different. That sometimes gets confused with how many people in the public have to vote on the tax to get it approved. In either case, 2/3 of your council members have to vote to put it to the ballot measure. For a general tax, meaning able to be used for any general purpose rather in the general fund, it only takes a majority vote of the electorate. For a specific tax, 2/3 of the electorate voting at the election have to approve the tax in order for it to be put into place. And your city attorney and other legal advisors will certainly be able to weigh in on how, if you decide to move forward, how you can craft the language so you can define what you want to spend the money on without crossing that line and making it a specific tax and allowing yourself some leeway.
Question,
Okay.
what is the transition tax overriding?
What the transaction tax is overriding is the existing tax base, the existing tax rate. So you go from your existing tax rate, you're adding on an additional amount above what is taxed within Lemoore today.
Thank you.
Okay, let me do it this way. I'm sorry, I'm still having issues here. I don't know why this is conflicting. So Kevin, let's move to slide 5. I've talked about slide 6 rather. Okay, we've talked about the general versus specific. Go to slide 6. So there's a cap. Are we in sync with our slides? The title is, what about the cap?
Yes.
Okay, so the combined rate of all the taxes that are added in cannot exceed 2%. I don't believe you have an issue with that. Okay, there's enough room in your rate structure right now that you can impose as much as a 1% rate and be okay. But in some instances, the law requires if you go above a 2% level where the add-on taxes are at 2% or above that level, then special legislation is needed, but that doesn't apply here. Let's go to slide 8. So as you consider this, keep in mind you're in lots of company. Not only are you in lots of company in terms of agencies considering the number of an add-on tax, there are agencies looking to extend their taxes, and some of those are looking to not only extend an existing district tax, they're looking to raise the rate. So, and you're not the only agency struggling with trying to balance a budget and considering this amongst various options for raising additional revenues to preserve your service levels. Let's go to slide 9. So again, kind of breaking the information down, there's 34 of 58 counties in the state with a district tax. I switch in and out of the jargon. I use transactions and use tax, district tax, add-on tax, so please forgive me, but they all relate to the same thing. Almost half of the cities in California have a district tax. Some cities have 3. And they're funding specific elements of service. Some overlap and fund the same service at a higher level. Let's go to slide 14, please. We should be seeing functional differences to the Bradley Burns, all other retailers. So one thing to keep in mind is adding the tax. There's nothing about this that changes what the tax applies to compared to the Bradley Burns 1% tax that's in effect today. Nothing changes. When you go to the supermarket, if you buy beer or wine, or you buy cleaning supplies or some snack items, today you're paying the tax. If the add-on tax is put into place, you will pay slightly more for those same goods. It does not change anything about what's taxed compared to what you see today. So grocery stores, general consumer good outlets, your clothing stores, restaurants, gas stations, all of those entities within the community, they would charge the tax, and that would bring revenue into your tax base for you. So with respect to the Bradley Burns tax, with those types of outlets, there's no difference. The big difference comes in the next, let's go to slide 15. The big differences start when you look at registered vehicles that are being purchased. Okay, so if a resident from Lemoore or a business or the school district or the city itself buys a vehicle, let's say they go to Fresno or they go to Hanford. I'm in Madera, by the way. If they go anywhere to buy a vehicle, they are going to be subject to, and register that vehicle in Lemoore, they're going to be subject to a district tax. Okay. So I want to get that out there. So here we have 2 examples. A buyer buying a vehicle pays the total sales tax where the vehicle will be registered. That's what I'm getting at. So in this example, we have a buyer who lives in a city without a TUT, Lemoore. They go to Fresno, they go to Selma, again, they go to Hanford, they buy a vehicle. They're going to pay the base rate charged by the dealer, the 7.25% in this example. That if that dealer is in a jurisdiction with a district tax, the buyer, because the vehicle is going to be registered in Lemoore, they will not pay that. That vehicle is leaving the area. Let's go to slide 16. I'm sorry, I have a cat that's suddenly unhappy with its environment here. So slide 16. So here, let's say now that if the tax were in place in Lemoore, you go out, again, any registered licensed driver goes out, buys a vehicle anywhere, even if they bought it from out of state, when they go to register to DMV, they're going to pay the district tax applicable to Lemoore. That means that they will pay the district tax on the value of the vehicle that they're purchasing. Could be a car, a truck, a boat, an SUV, an RV, could be an airplane. They're going to pay the tax one way or another, even if they self-report. And that adds value to the tax base, something that's missing right now in the total picture for Lemoore. Let's go to slide 17. So the differences continue here when we're talking about things like building supplies, equipment, bulk fuel. If you are ordering material from a supplier and having that supplier bring that material into Lemoore, the district tax would apply. If you are a supplier in Lemoore, okay, you've got some companies there that sell fuel in bulk and do some other things, supply outside buyers. When they are delivering the goods outside Lemoore, they are exempt from the district tax. And it's one of the things I caution cities about, because their staff, you just had the recognition for your staff member there, your longtime staff member who did a good job. He's probably one of those people that would jump in a city vehicle, and in a time of need, run out and buy materials and get them into the city to meet an important deadline or issue. It's one of the things that you need to consider if you have the option of not sending your crews out to pick up material, but allow the seller to bring them to you, all other costs being advantageous to you, let the seller bring it to you. And then you're taxing yourself, but it's a way to engage other programs other than the general fund to contribute towards your tax measure. Let's go to slide 18. So here's another item, online sales, another big addition to your tax base that wasn't considered when the original estimate was provided. You buy goods online from Amazon, Etsy, Macy's, wherever. The fact that they're being delivered into the city, that will make them subject to the district tax. So you're getting all the tax from your existing retailers, your restaurants, your gas stations, and then you're getting another layer of tax because of the volume of online goods that are being purchased, again, from government, your residents, and your industry. Everything they buy online is subject to the district tax. And I should add, with respect to the example using equipment and bulk supplies, you have some manufacturing facilities there. Typically, as they work to refurbish their facilities, upgrade equipment, replace worn out items, they are sourcing large pieces of equipment from outside the area. And that will all be subject to the transactions tax as well. So let's go to slide 19. So one of the things we look at now, we don't do citizen polls, we don't do surveys. In our line of work, we look at the results, and especially when these taxes were a relatively new concept, and there was a lot of concern because they weren't as prevalent around California. There was a lot of concern about, well, what damage might we do by adding this tax? Do our businesses lose a competitive edge? Do our consumers face an unreasonable burden? And we address that question by looking at the fact that essentially, once these taxes have gone into place, the level of sales activity at the existing businesses really appears to be unchanged. And certainly with so many agencies already implementing the tax, it's I think less of a concern in the minds of the average citizen about, well, I'm going to go here or go there to try to dodge the tax. Fresno has them. They're prevalent pretty much anywhere you go. So they're getting harder and harder to avoid especially if you're walking in and shopping in a mall or that kind of an environment. It's harder and harder to escape. So from our perspective, really haven't seen that it's done significant damage. There was a lot of talk, car dealers especially. Oh, I'm worried I'm going to lose a competitive edge to agencies that don't have the tax. Well, it's really not a factor. So let's go to, let's go to slide 27. So this really doesn't need to be said. I'm sure it's already part of your discussions and staff thinking, but just, people, I was asked a question earlier today. This is my second presentation, and someone asked me, well, do you recommend a range of increase that's appropriate for a given community? That's not part of our job, but part of that evaluation is in determining what is your message going to be if you decide to move forward with this about what you're going to fund. How is this going to benefit the community? And so the benefit versus the cost is a huge piece of what needs to be conveyed to the community so they can see the benefit. Let's go to slide 28. So there are other resources that are made available. The league certainly has a plethora of information that can be shared. We've provided you with the estimated impact. There's a number of agencies that can help with the communication, the outreach, the polling that you might wish to engage in. Let's go to slide 29. So as you think about this, you have some deadlines to consider. One is, are you going to try to move forward with this, forming your message, testing the waters, seeing what the public's acceptance of this is? If you decide to, if that leads to further discussion and consideration as you move forward, you're looking at some deadlines relative to potentially if this is going to go on a November ballot. Usually in an August timeframe, your elections clerk is wanting to get information in hand so they can set ballot language and get printing accomplished and the ballots out in the hands of the public. Before, the one thing I want to provide as a takeaway from this slide, should you decide to go forward and staff begins to develop a raft of documents for you to consider, it's vitally important that resolutions, ordinances, and the ballot language itself be shared as early as possible with the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. They're the ones that implement the tax. And there's been more than one unfortunate situation where an agency has gone all the way through an election, won approval at the ballot, and then forwarded documentation to the state only for them to reject it and not implement the tax because of failures in the language to comport with the state requirements. So I just throw that out there as one item to consider in the overall timeline. Should you go forward? Should this be successful at the ballot? The tax becomes effective. If it's a November ballot, becomes effective on April 1st. Why? Because that's the start of a quarter that is at least 110 days beyond the date of the election. That's the state requirement. If that were to be the case, if the money were to begin, if the tax rate were to become effective April 1st, your first payment would be in June of 2025. Your first full year of collections would be for fiscal year 25-26. And we've estimated about 3.8 million in total collections for a full year. So now the last slide. So I open the floor to questions.
Any questions from council?
Yeah, I've got a couple. It sounds to me like the language in this measure has to be specific for projects that the city wants to complete. Am I understanding that correctly?
The language needs to be clear that you intend to, it needs to be clear as to what you intend to use it for. You can make it very broad. It can be made available for any general fund purpose. You can begin to tighten it up by saying, we intend to emphasize spending on the following without committing that those dollars have to be spent in those areas should other needs arise. Or you can come forward, some agencies like my hometown of Madera, they said this is going to support fire and police 100%. That made it a specific tax, and that required a 2/3 voter approval to succeed, which it did get. So you do want to define to the public how the advantages, the services that this is going to preserve, but that could be as broad or as narrow as you wish to define it.
Okay. And so in terms on the accountability aspect that you talked about, talk a little bit about how that occurs.
When you say the accountability.
Yeah, you said that there has to be some accountability to the citizens on how this measure, how these dollars were used based upon language of the ballot, correct?
So having lived with this, initially it starts with the definition that basically the pact that you make with the public. What are you intending to utilize the money for. Again, it could be very general, could be very, very specific. On the backside, and as part of the consideration for whether you go forward with a tax, you need to consider, will there be participation by an oversight committee? Is that something that the public feels very strongly that they want to have in place in order to ensure that the dollars are going where they're intended to go? That then leads to requirements for your accounting and then annual reporting and an opportunity for that group. Typically, they're advisory in nature. They're given an opportunity to review the past uses of the money, and language is established to from that review that yes, it appears that the money's being used as it was intended, or it's not, and here's why. And then
Go ahead.
okay, and then that typically the groups are given an opportunity to review staff's recommendations for the coming year's intended use. And they're allowed to comment on that, but typically they're not given the power to dictate what is ultimately a council decision. But they're allowed to review and comment about, yes, we agree that these are appropriate expenditures planned in the next year's budget. And that language would then come forward to council, but council retains the ultimate discretion for what this money is being put to use, for how it's being put to use.
So you had mentioned in your presentation that there was a difference in the estimates that you were providing and the staff was providing. So what is the estimate?
So the estimate is 3.8 million.
Yeah, and that's at the 2% rate?
That is at a 1% rate.
1%. Okay.
We had used just a doubling of the Bradley Burns tax, which is about 3.4. So we actually do better with the district tax than we did with what we're getting now.
Okay. And what other cities around us have this tax?
Let me pull up something very quickly. Let me ask, what do you consider a reasonable perimeter for
Kings County.
Kings County? Okay, let me. Let me pull up a table here. Avenal and Corcoran have district taxes.
And Hanford is looking at, they're having a study session tonight on potentially doing one as well.
I know that about 3.5 years ago or so, there was a citizens initiative for a tax imposed at the county level to support fire services, but that failed.
That failed there. So what's the difference between a 1% sales tax increase in this initiative?
You are not allowed to raise the general Bradley Burns tax. That is set in state law. This is your only avenue
Gotcha.
to raise the tax rate locally.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. Go above that.
Any other questions from council? We'll go ahead and open up to the public for any public comment. If you can go to the mic, please. That way everybody can hear you.
Does Corcoran currently have the tax add-on?
Yes,
And what is that?
I don't know what the number is.
I believe it's 1%.
And where do they generate the money? Where do they disperse it to?
The money goes to the general fund. I'm not sure whether it is intended for a limited scope of services or any general fund purpose, but the money is is always dedicated to general fund functions. So police, fire, parks, streets, those kinds of services.
But does Corcoran, the city of Corcoran, don't they get funding from the state for the prisoners that they have? They count them as their population?
Any dollars that are received from the state relative to the penal institutions are dedicated only to those institutions. They are not to pay for general expenses. They can't use it to upgrade a playground at the park.
And does the city of Lemoore not get any funding from the prisoners that recently Gavin Newsom released to our city here in Kings County? Do we not get any funding from that?
I'll leave that to someone on staff to answer. I have no information about that.
Well, I'm not aware of any direct revenue we get from that, other than if they're in town, they're paying property taxes and sales tax. We will get our share
I
of that.
thought that I was under the understanding that those inmates that were released early from prison here into our city, that we were getting funding for those.
I'm honestly not familiar with any release specifically to our city. Anybody aware of that? Chief?
There's 81 on key lights sent to the county. But that's all, the city of Lemoore does not get any 81.
Okay.
It's all kept in county and it's kept for those state prisoners that got released early to fund those programs that they are supposed to enact to keep them from.
But it doesn't come to our city.
No,
Okay.
I think isn't it called chief like key light or?
Well, that was one of the programs and that was different from Project Home Key or Project Home Key, but
I think that's maybe what you're referring to because,
No, I was referring to that AB one oh
it's
nine,
81.
oh, okay, my bad.
It gets sent to probation.
but I thought that our city was getting the funding for that. Okay.
Do you mind stating your name for the record? I missed that part, sorry.
Rosa Maria Jaramillo.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and bring it back to council.
So
Any other
let me
comments or
ask you a
questions?
question real quick. When we first started down this road, I was under the impression we were asking for a straight 1% sales tax to be a general fund input, well, up to 1%. It could have been whatever we decided. Now, this sounds like it's a different type, sounds like it's a district tax. Is it the same thing or is it two different things? Am I
Same thing.
misunderstanding?
It is the same thing.
Same thing.
The terminology is a district because it's not countywide, it's not statewide. It's the city limits of
Okay,
Lemoore. And because it applies to
just the
the whole
city.
state, they call it a district
Okay,
tax.
that.
It's
that
a
makes-
local option taxes.
That makes sense.
Know it by more.
Now, one thing I was a little concerned if we have somebody that either manufactures something here or,
Jeez.
cheese is one aspect, and then they sell it out to Los Angeles. We don't get that sales tax of them selling that out or fuel or any of that? Is that correct?
If the seller's location, so let's use petroleum. If the local sales desk is located in Lemoore, you will get the 1% Bradley Burns tax, the base tax, let's call it, that you've always had in place. You will get value from that. What you will not get is a additional tax on top of that, because what's being sold is leaving the area. So you'll get the one tax that you already have in place. You would not get a benefit from the add-on tax. And one thing to keep in mind is it's easy to get lost, and even in my own mind, it's easy to get lost sometimes when you're thinking, I've got manufacturing. Well, manufacturers operate in in a variety of environments. If you're selling cheese or whey, that's non-taxable. That's never been part of your sales tax base. You seem to derive more value from some of your larger industry from the value of the equipment that they're putting in place to keep the plant running, more so than the value of anything that they sell. Some entities wholesale. I make a product, but I'm not selling to the end user. That is a non-taxable transaction as well. So you can have a lot of industry, but not all of it has ever produced a dime of tax in the local tax base if they're wholesalers.
Does this tax have a sunset?
It can. It's dependent upon the language that the voters approve.
So if it doesn't, if there is no language addressing that fact, it's in perpetuity.
Yes.
But wouldn't that be part of the language that is put out to the voters, that this is either a 10-year tax or a 15-year tax or a 5-year tax, or that would most likely you would recommend us putting that into to inform all the voters of that possibility, correct?
Sir, it is a requirement in the ballot language. You have to define the term of the tax, be it 5 years, 10 years, or in perpetuity. That has to be part of the language that's being voted on. It's just as important as setting the rate and the purpose of the tax.
Just for clarification, I was reading as you were talking, but if you were to make an online purchase, say, for example, Walmart.com or Walmart delivery, and they deliver to your house, do we get that extra district tax on those purchases?
Yes, you do.
So note to everyone, if this happens, get Walmart Plus and get all your stuff delivered to Lemoore.
Let me throw something else
Amazon.
out here, just to kind of stimulate the thinking so you understand the nuances with this. If you have an opportunity down the road to secure some of these retailers, especially Amazon, they'll have their lockers where you don't want goods delivered at home, you're not home during the day, you're worried about porch piracy. So you have it delivered to an alternate location. Okay, think about all the people on the military base. If you can get the locker location set in Lemoore, then the address is Lemoore, and all of that merchandise shipped is subject to the district tax.
We do have one of those at our Chevron here in town, so that's
Okay.
good.
We need more.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, this
Good
is,
tidbit.
sorry.
No, you're fine.
Now, this is probably a question more to Kevin. Staff currently thought it was about 3.4, and obviously they're guessing and they have no, where did we come up with the difference, or where did this company come up with the difference between the $400,000 basically from 3.4 to 3.8? I mean, obviously our staff are guessing. We all know that. I mean, we're not.
Well, I think at
mad.
the time, the presentation was presented several months ago. And we simply doubled. I mean, we get 1 cent of the 7.25 Bradley Burns tax currently. If we double that with a district tax of 1 cent, we thought we'd get double the amount. But as Wayne explained this evening, the tax is applied the same, but it's distributed differently. It depends on, you may gain or you may lose based on how the district tax is collected. And he pointed out some things that we would not get the district tax, but we would get the Bradley Burn. And other cases, like he pointed out, the Amazon, if it's delivered here, we are going to get the district tax. So, and with car sales registered, we will get the district tax registered in Lemoore. So they're very sophisticated in their computer analysis of sales tax, and you put all the pluses and minuses, and he's determined that in his estimate, we're going to get over $400,000 more from a district tax than we would from the Bradley Burns tax that we currently get.
Cause I know, was it a couple of years ago through COVID? We got a lot more sales tax increase because of the Amazons and the Walmart.com, whatever that's called, people, so, okay. I'm good.
Any other questions or comments from council? All right. Thank you, sir. We appreciate the presentation.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You lost. You lost, Kevin.
No, he lost because he went way over 10 minutes.
Oh, he went over.
Yeah.
I've never won one yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, my bad.
Medium on the steak, Wayne.
Item 2-2, Lemoore Police Dispatch Center update. Chief Kendall.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. It's been a little while since I provided an update on what's going on at the dispatch center and where we kind of are expecting to go in our timeline. So that's what I'm bringing for you tonight. This project is nearing its completion as far as the build out phase. We're kind of moving on to the next phase, which would ultimately be the recruitment and the hiring of dispatchers. So to kind of bring you through what we've done so far, the dispatch center lobby is obviously fully operational. It has been now for some time. It's been working out great with the live scan being up in front, with our interview room being right there in front. Works out pretty good for us on our day-to-day basis for the officers. Onto the dispatching side of the house, there's two components. The call taking or the calls coming in, and the dispatching or the radio calls to the officers going out. So Motorola has the radio side of things. They are 95% complete with their portion of the build out, and they're currently waiting on the tower to be complete in order to affix their antenna. Once the antenna is installed, they will be done, with the exception of the actual training of the dispatchers on the dispatching equipment. Once they do that, they will have fulfilled their portion of the contract. On the calls coming inside, AT&T has installed the 911 lines, and NGA has installed their servers and computer equipment. And they're very close to being complete with their project as well. The tower is on site. It's currently sitting on the ground in our back parking lot. I've been told that it will be put up and completely installed by the end of the week. So next slide, or yeah, you're good. Our next step to complete this build out would be the city servers. If you remember, we're not a standalone. We don't have a standalone server. We contract, or we kind of have this triangle kind of hodgepodge system back from the day when we used to be dispatched with county to now that we're dispatched with Hanford. We have email that is still on with county. We have our Klets line that is kind of routed through from Hanford or through county to Hanford to us. We are in the process, and we've been in the process of building out our own network to tie us, the police department, in with the city of Lemoore, the city offices, the CMC buildings, so we can be on our own email system. And then the only thing we have tying in to county is our redundancy line in case something were to happen with dispatch and ours were to go down and we have to flip the switch to have our backup. Every agency is required to have a backup, obviously, to maintain that line to county. and then to maintain that CLEX line. We would essentially kind of sever all ties, to Hanford.
Chief, who's doing that work for us?
Our in-house IT personnel, Mike and Hayden. They are currently building a network that's mirroring the county lines.
You have the certifications to do all that?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and they've been doing a pretty good job so far. Now, obviously, we haven't gone live on anything. But they've gone up to Fresno to see how Fresno's done it. They're in constant talks with Anthony from county, with Hanford. And it's really, we're just kind of building the same system that we're already on, just that's our own.
We're building to mirror Hanford's, not counties, right? Because there's two systems, RIM, and then I don't know what the other one is.
Yeah, that's an operating system, Spillman.
Yeah. okay.
Yeah, that's more of a records management system and then a computed automated dispatching system that does both. We would stay with RIMS.
RIMS,
Right,
okay.
right. So in in moving forward into the next fiscal year, that's coming up relatively quick, we would include dispatchers in that budget. And then beginning in July, we would hire and train those dispatchers, ultimately leading to the complete conversion over to the operating a city-owned dispatch center. In order to meet this timeline, we would have to fill the currently vacant dispatch supervisor position. Just so we can be ready for July 1 to start potentially hiring people if that budget gets approved. Next slide.
So Chief, just a question about the budget. So right now we expend about $500,000.
Yes. Dispatching services is projected next year with Hanford 594,000, I believe. It's somewhere right around there.
Somewhere around there. Okay.
And plus county IT to maintain those switches, they're coming in at about 144,000. But I'll get there, kind of line it out, what we're projecting and
So how much above the 500,000 we have in there are you anticipating for the June budget, for next year's budget?
He says he'll go over that.
Are you going to go over that? You said?
next slide.
Oh,
Next slide.
I'm on track. That's all. I'm just paying attention.
Really, this slide right now is just showing you what we kind of projected our staffing levels are going to need to be to do this on our own. I have already put that information out at my last update. Go ahead to the next slide. And then if you take those staffing levels and taking into consideration the operating costs, we would be budgeting $973,900 for dispatch. If you do the math, it's $236,000 more a year than what we're currently paying Hanford and County IT. With that being said, we have $1.3 million remaining in grant funds that we have to spend on dispatch services. We would offset that 236,000 for the next 4 to 5 years. And we believe with the way, with what we've been paying out to the city of Hanford and the County of Kings, we should be operating in the black within 3 years.
You say we should be operating in the black?
Well, I don't like to ever say for sure. There's a lot of variables in here. This $973,900, that's an extremely high number. Those you have to take into consideration. You have the potential for that dispatcher to take the family plan on health insurance. And that's kind of what we've narrowed it down to is we want a high number because I plan on coming in underneath that $973,000. I know in the last 5 years, we've always come under budget. As a PD as a whole, And I would expect to do the same because we're always going to have salary savings. We're always going to have turnover. Things are going to happen. I don't know how many reserve dispatchers we're going to get. I fully intend on offsetting some of these shifts with reserve dispatchers that are just going to be part-time employees that are not going to pick up health insurance.
Chief, I don't want you to feel anxious about this.
No.
You sound like it, but I'm anxious about it. Okay. And from the point of view that this has been about a 4-year project, hasn't it?
Absolutely. No, longer, much longer.
Closer to 10.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 10 years.
Closer to 10.
Okay. And we keep dragging this thing forward. And my concern is we're kind of building it backwards. You know, I've heard everything from we're going to get other cities to join us and increase revenue and all that stuff. And this is the kind of a thing that worries me in the sense that it's we've got a federal grant that runs out, those funds run out, right? And that,
Correct.
Yeah.
That money runs out.
That money is, the federal grant's a reimbursable grant. That grant is almost depleted. That's what we've used to build out the internals.
oh, the way it's presented here.
This
I thought that-
1.3 million is not a grant.
That 1.3 million is the grant money that will be remaining from the original state grant of $2 million.
So it does have a lifespan?
No,
Okay,
does not.
so that 1.3.
that money is already we have possession of that money. It's not a reimbursable.
Yeah.
That money is ours, and as long as we spend it,
Well, you say it's remaining available grant funds.
it's remaining in that account.
Yeah, in other words, we've got
right,
1.3 million
correct.
in the bank for that.
That has to be used on dispatch.
Yes, it's specific for
Correct.
dispatch. And so you think that 1.3 million will absorb the difference? Is that what you're,
That will offset the $236,000 a year for the next 4 to 5 years. In year 5.
Yeah.
I believe just given what over the last 5 years, the increases in dispatch and county IT, I do believe we'll be operating in the black somewhere around year 3.
So you think that the current dispatch cost of $738,000 will be in the $1 million range in 5 years? I agree with that.
Mike's on.
but you know,
That is what you're saying, correct? Did you hear me or not?
I heard you. I think I may have not understood you correctly, but I'm thinking
Yeah, so the $738,000 in 5 years' time is going to be more in the 1 million plus range.
it'll be
Which-
closer to that number. for
Yeah,
sure. It'll be
I-
closer for that because we got to take into consideration. The city of Hanford has, typically given their employees at a minimum a 3% raise, kind of every
Yeah.
year, right? Where we can't say the same here in Lemoore. Our benefit packages here in Lemoore are not the same as Hanford. We will at least, at the end of the day, control the cost and control have some type of level of control.
so these numbers don't include any of those projections.
The 900,
73, that's just for next fiscal year.
that would be all in for next fiscal year if we were going to do it out on our own.
Benefits, everything.
Everything, that's the high number.
Okay.
That's if everybody takes correct me if I'm wrong, that's if everybody takes a family plan, a spouse plus 2. And that, everything kind of topped out. We did a topped out salary range for a dispatch supervisor. I think we did kind of towards the topped out salary range for the senior dispatchers. And then we kind of took a median of dispatchers we're going to get some brand new ones. I think the majority,
You know, you guys have said this has been going on for more than 10 years, so. So what's the urgency of getting it done next year?
we have a level of commitment that we have to do it. Like the state came on board. When we originally, but when this project was first started, it was going to be 100% self-funded, right, through the city. The state came on board and the state funded the 911 portion of this. They have, certain level of expectations. If they're going to build out the 911 portion of it, they kind of expect us to staff it and run an actual dispatch center. I would assume if we don't staff it, we're not holding up our end of the bargain when we sit,
Well,
we
my
apply for
my
the.
point is, we haven't staffed it yet.
No, but it's
Yeah,
not.
I'm
bad.
not saying not staff it. I'm just saying, what's the urgency of doing it next year versus, versus.
Well, like our contract with Motorola, that's due to be, at this point, it's expired. We're past the deadline for that completion date, that targeted completion date. And now they want to start, adding change orders to keep a project manager on board. Because at this point, once they put the antenna up, they're done. They're done with what they have control over. And the only thing they have left is to train our dispatchers that we don't. They want to tie a project manager to the project. They want to charge us $34,000 on a change order that, could be avoided.
Go ahead with the rest of it. I've got some other questions.
Sure. And I mean, really, we kind of hit the, the high point. If you want to hit the last, we kind of talked about it already. We would ultimately have all future control over the costs, like the salary increases and the staffing levels. We will have dedicated dispatching services for our citizens and the services of our city. We will be able to reduce the number of EMS calls to the fire department that they have to respond to, and ultimately will fulfill our obligations, like I said, to our grant funds.
So that, since we have an expert here on the EMS, so the majority of these funds that are going to be handled by dispatch are going to be the EMS calls. We're taking that load off of fire department,
Some of it.
Some of it.
80% of it.
Well, the calls are still gonna come in. The dispatchers, if we get the EMS ones, will be able to differentiate between calls that need to go to an ambulance service or a call that needs to go to an ambulance service and fire department. They could differentiate that to where they can say, okay, this one an ambulance can go to, so we're just gonna send an ambulance. We're not gonna tone out Lemoore fire. So
Does the ambulance service give us a kickback on how many calls we give them?
We do get a kickback when they don't show up in a timely process.
Right.
God forbid.
They're charged.
They're charged.
They are charged.
they are charged, yeah.
Mhm.
So
I mean, if we're facilitating 80% of these calls for ambulances,
No, most of those calls just get transferred up to American Ambulance. Now, the problem is liability. We rely on the city of Hanford to for our dispatching services, and really the liability falls on them if they make the decision not to send Lemoore Fire. So they're going to err on the side of caution
And send
and
us
send
every
Lemoore
single
Fire.
time.
and you think that would be different? No?
well, that was gonna be my
Yes.
next question. Was
How would it be? Tell me how it would be different. How would that work in a?
they're gonna send everybody.
I don't think, I would disagree.
That $700,000, how much of that is any of that? This would probably be more for the risk management side of it. We are putting that risk off onto Hanford. So Hanford is charging a dollar amount, obviously connected to that risk management of their for having that aspect. Now that risk now falls back on us.
That's
Right.
included, that
That,
number,
that number's included. That's what I'm saying. is
number
Our
is
risk
included.
management's gonna go up. Obviously,
that number is included in,
the risk management.
right.
So I think that goes back to your question. I mean,
Yeah, It sounds like this was an interesting idea 10 years ago. I'm not sure if it was a good idea. And in terms of where we're at now, I don't know.
So I have a off question. So right now, when someone in the city of Lemoore dials 911, it goes to the Highway Patrol in Fresno, correct?
Depends.
So most of them do, I would say.
If you're calling from a
And then-
landline, no.
And then, yeah, but I mean, how many of us? use
Right. If you're
landlines?
calling from
A cell phone
a
is,
cell
Cell
phone.
phone, yeah. And so then it gets dispatched to Kings County or Hanford City and it, kind of bounces around. Would that change? Would,
Typically it works on whatever cell tower you're closest to. If that makes sense.
Well,
So-
it makes sense.
So you're not wrong in the sense that
Where's
if you're in the city of Lemoore and it bounces off a local cell tower, it may or may not,
Go straight to our dispatch.
right. It
Because-
may go to CHP, CHP then routes it to Hanford.
So with this whole thing, kind of the direction I'm kind of going with it is I feel like our citizens are going to get much better service from the police and fire.
I believe so. And Dr. Gornick, just on top of everything else, I'm a citizen as well, right? I'm a citizen of Lemoore. And I would be really hard pressed to sit up here and tell you like, hey, this is a great idea and there's not going to be a single problem that I just can't do that. I know that we can control. I know what we control internally in the police department right now. And I think we're doing an outstanding job.
No question.
I don't want to I will
But
never,
I don't want this to throw you guys off stride either. That's my concern.
I share your concern.
Okay.
I absolutely share your concern.
Yeah.
I think 6 years ago, 5 years ago, that was the time to pull the plug. Once we started entering into contracts,
We crossed the Rubicon.
we crossed a bridge that I can't get us out of. You know,
Well, I guess, the other thing that, and we've all talked about it, at times, other cities, could we recruit other cities to use this service? I don't know if that's a realistic or if that's a pipe dream.
no, absolutely. I recently had a conversation with the sheriff in looking into just that. Because I know that they're back, long time ago when this was all getting roundtabled out and the decisions were being made. That's the route they wanted to go into a joint venture, enter into a JPA and do it that way. The problem at the time was Kings County had Spielman, which has a jail component for their records management system that also operates their dispatching system. We were on RIMS. RIMS did not at the time have a jail portion. And so at that point, once the county wasn't on board, Hanford didn't want to entertain it. Corcoran didn't want to entertain it. And really, Avenal was with county because they were already on Spielman as well. And that's why that never came to fruition. Because I think there could be some cost savings. Now, as some of these companies get away from Spielman and go on to RIMS, there's a potential for it. There's always a potential that we pick up another city. And that's kind of the reason why we built a tower with an antenna that would be capable of, or a tower with enough space to have different, more than one antenna.
And it can take cellular
It could.
stuff
It
as well.
could absolutely take cellular and, that's also another way to bring in certain revenues to the city.
And out of RIMS and Spielman, which is the newer technology?
I don't know. I honestly don't know which one came out first. I know that when I was assigned to the gang task force, I was on Spielman, and it is very, very cumbersome. I would never recommend going to Spielman, and we would stay with RIMS. RIMS is a very easy platform for everybody to train new hires, and to especially having been on it now for, I don't know, probably going on 15 years, 10, 15 years.
Madam Mayor, if I could add my 2 cents. I've talked quite a bit with the chief about this and researched some of the history of our this proposal. I think it really comes down to what we look in the future, what we can control. Our history has been that the costs are basically right now when we're contracting, costs can go up 10, 20% a year. We have absolutely no control, no alternative but to accept those because we're not in control of the system. The other thing I really worry about, as you all know, I'm a huge fan of our volunteer fire department. We have about 2,000 calls a year. As we grow, that's going to grow to 2,500 and 3,000 calls. Right now, we have no control over when they're called out. I hear a lot of stories that the volunteers rush from home, rush to the station, get in the engine on their way, and they get called off because it wasn't a call that they needed to be called in the first place. We can train our own dispatchers, our senior dispatchers to do some triage and have some controls over that so we maximize the utilization of our volunteers and we can continue to cover more calls without covering calls that never needed to be covered in the first place. So those two big factors of controlling our own destiny is kind of an important part of the overall approach, I think.
Yeah, and just Dr. Gorner, just to kind of go back to what your concerns are, and again, I do have those same concerns. But to speak on what Kevin's point is county IT, like 3 years ago, we were paying them somewhere around $77,000. The next year, we were paying them somewhere around $97,000, and this next fiscal year, 25, they want $144,000. We have our own IT department. They're doing a great job. You know, I mean, I had them do something for our city website today, and it's done same day. I don't have to worry about it. You know, yes, it is a dispatching center, but it also gets us standing on our own. And that's something that's way overdue. There's going to be bumps and there's going to be bruises. There's going to be problems that we just don't foresee. This next gen 911 system that the state is implementing, there's only 3 agencies in the state right now that are running it. Cathedral City, Fresno's building it, and we're going to be the third. We might be the second. We're probably going to be the second. But that's what every other dispatch center will eventually have to go to through the state. It's a cloud-based system that they're pushing out that your 911 funds from your cell phones funds, really?
Yeah.
And that's why it's not costing us anything for that 911 portion coming in. But and again, I always knew, I think every chief prior to me knew this was going to cost the city of Lemoore more money to do it on our own.
Well, you know, that's the other part of the concern is, we think we could control those costs because we don't have realistic numbers to start with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we are, seems like in perpetuity, always in a deficit budget.
Yeah. And
we just got to get better at that, period.
And again, that $973,000, that's why it's so high, because I don't want to be over that number. I think that's the number that's going to be as high as it can be. And I do believe we will come in under that number, just as we do in all of our other accounts at the PD.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Well, I guess I'll go next. Is there a possibility of the 911 calls that Stewart was talking about, instead of it going to the highway patrol, capturing it at our dispatch center to where that downtime from the Fresno Highway Patrol having to figure out where that caller's calling from and figure out, does he send it to Kings County or her, send it to Kings County, Hanford, or us,
Mm-hmm.
which is a time sensitive. And then Like when I would call 911, I'd have to explain to someone, because most people don't, I know it and most of us know it. When you call 911, you're talking to the higher patrol.
Right.
So you're gonna say, hey, I need to talk to Hanford Dispatch. That's what I would do. And they would just automatically saves that time.
Sure.
90% of our people or citizens don't know that component.
Right.
Is there a way, do you know, of us being able to have that 911 system, that 911 call go to our dispatch center if they're within our city limits?
Again, it comes back to the vicinity of the tower that they're calling from. You know, it depends on which tower that is and where that tower is, or where that call is bouncing off of. Because everything, really all that 911 portion that the state controls, it's just a pointer. And it's pointing which PSAP, which dispatch center that call is going to go to. It gets routed a lot of times, the majority of the times, to CHP because it doesn't know where to point it to. I think over the years, it's got exponentially better. Because right when having been doing this for 20 years, when cell phones became very, very popular and we started seeing more and more cell towers being built, that's gotten better. There's always room for improvement. And I think as they do build more and more cell towers within, closer to our jurisdiction, it will get better. But yeah, it just really honestly depends on how close they are.
Now, your numbers also shows 5 dispatchers,
Correct.
2 seniors and
Correct.
1 supervisor.
Mhm.
So technically, there's gonna be probably 7 actual component, staff members in different variety of,
There's going to be some type of variety based off of our calls for service, right? We probably don't need 2 dispatchers, or we don't need a call taker and a dispatcher at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning. We're not getting any calls. A dispatcher can answer.
3 to 7 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday afternoon, you're probably not gonna
Right.
need.
Right. There's going to be times where that dispatcher is going to be there by themselves. There's going to be times where there's going to be a dispatcher, senior dispatcher and a supervisor.
Are these
Really
all full-time employees?
of those,
8 of them will
of
be.
those 8, yes, those are full-time employees. We would still have to, that's pretty low, honestly. Not low, but
There's no
based off of
part-time- There's no part-time dispatchers?
we would backfill those positions with our reserve dispatchers. Our reserve dispatchers, I've already have a handful of them that have reached out to me and said, hey, I just retired from Hanford. I want to come work for you guys when you go live. They're just sitting in my emails. And I'm looking forward to bringing them on board, but that's what saves us when it comes to police officers.
Huh.
That's why we have reserve police officers, because when we got the amount of injuries that we have, vacation, sick,
Yeah.
whatever, we need those reserves to help do the job.
How many? We're gonna call them consoles, because I'm sure that's pretty much what they're called.
Mhm.
Will we have, or do we have?
We have 4.
Okay, so
Well, we can build out 4. We have 3 that are essentially completely built out. So we can have 2 on at all times plus a supervisor. Redundancy, right? One console goes down, we jump on another one.
do we plan on making 4?
Maybe some chief 20 years from now.
Oh, you don't think we
Yeah.
need it?
I don't think so.
You don't think?
I hope not. I hope crime stays the way it is, going down.
How much was the console? I mean, guess at it,
I wouldn't,
a ballpark guess, very broad ball.
couple $100,000
There you go. Perfect.
for the Motorola portion of it,
Gotcha.
for the dispatching portion of it. But that's the biggest portion of it.
Now, tower.
Mm-hmm.
We have 1 tower that's gonna be able to do everything, or are we still relying on, I think we have a couple repeaters.
We have 2. We have 1 up on the Prinos. We have 1 down on, over by the Lemoore Elementary School.
We're gonna keep
We'll
those.
probably move one of those repeaters down to the police department over there at Leprino's. It's the room that it's in is hot. We have to air condition that repeater. And we have to replace that right now, in fact. But that's primary. We have a secondary, our secondary channel down on the south end of town, that if one goes down, we always have redundancy.
Any of the school locations assist you with their towers?
No. And really, with Leprino's or with this tower that we're gonna be built, everything's flat here. We're well covered.
And that 900 is including the 5 dispatchers that are EMS dispatchers,
It's
correct?
including
For all
the
EMS
entire,
dispatchers?
all encompassing. A lot of that stuff gets covered in our training, right?
Yeah.
Like our brand new hires off the street. We still, officers, we still have to send them to traffic accident school and drug recognition school and DUI school. Same thing with the dispatcher. They're gonna get their basic dispatching course. We'll send them to an EMS course if we pick up, hopefully, a senior dispatcher that already has the course. Save some money there. But that 900 covers training.
Any other questions from council? I'll go ahead and open it up to the public. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none? Oh, never mind.
Jonathan Brewster, 1030 McKenna. I work for the sheriff's office. At times on a weekend night, these guys can't get out on the radio because Hanford's popping. So at what point, what's the cost of a life? Okay, so in my opinion, I think as a Lemoore, okay, I want our own dispatch center. I know it's expensive. I know it costs money, but sometimes these guys can't get on the radio. And I'm driving around, not on the street no more, I'm in the office, but I think we should have our own dispatch. Just my opinion.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment before I bring it back? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and bring it back to council. Any final thoughts or questions?
I agree with our Kings County Sheriff over here. Thank you, sir. I feel like we need this. I would go up to the podium and I feel like I should go to the podium and say this, but I'm gonna sit right here and say it. I think we need this. I agree with it. Chief, thank you for your knowledge and your presentation tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
job, Chief.
You did a good job.
Item 2-3, Sunset Vista Mobile Home Park Project. Mr. Rivera.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Self-help enterprises and the State Water Board approached the city about the possibility of providing water and sewer service to the Sunset Vista Mobile Home Park. The mobile home park is located over a mile away from the city limits on the west side of Highway 41 north of Lacey Boulevard. The State Water Board will pay for the installation of the piping from the existing system north to the mobile home park. The area between the current city limits and the mobile home park is mostly farmland with some rural residences. However, it is expected that this area will be an area to be annexed and developed after the city updates its general plan. The State Water Board has agreed to allow the city to select the route of the sewer and water line that makes the most sense for future development, which is a great thing. The city would be responsible to pay for the upsizing, which would be the difference in cost between the size of the pipes that the mobile home park needs and the size the city would want for future city growth, would be the upsizing difference. The city would recoup the cost when the area develops and developers pay their sewer and water impact fees. Excuse me. Once the alignment of the pipelines are settled, and the design is set, the city council will be asked to initiate the request of the Kings County LAFCO to approve an extraterritorial service agreement, which is needed to allow the city to provide services outside its city limits. The mobile home park currently has about 108 residential connections and 1 commercial connection service, which the population is about 400 people. So, in the audience, I have Armando and Javier from Self-Help Enterprises. They're here to answer any questions that you might have, and I also have our city engineer who's on Zoom that can answer any technical questions I might have to answer. But yeah, I just want to open up the discussion and hopefully answer any questions that you may have for us.
Any questions from council?
Do you know about the cost, the difference between upsizing?
Right now, it all depends on what the general plan, zones things out in order to come up with, the proper fixture units for the ultimate design. So that's still in the design stage. We haven't gotten that far, but upsizing's, it's not a lot of money. It's a lot of, if we had to put that line in ourselves, it'd be
Oh, yeah.
a tremendous amount that we could not afford to do. So, so I'd be guessing on what those costs would be right now.
Yeah, it's cheap compared to what it costs to put the line in, or
That's
even just what it would go past that we gained by going past where we want it to go.
That's correct. That's correct. And I believe just because the ground is so much better going to the north than it is to the west and the south, it's ideal conditions for the developers to build.
Where would you start from, Frank, in terms of?
So the nearest sewer, and it's kind of we're kind of working on the DSIP project, which is the grant that we're seeking through the naval base. We're taking a line down Liberty and then going down the Glendale alignment to the east. So there's going to be a lift station there as part of the sewer project for that project. So that's where the sewer will tie in. That's the closest that our sewer will be to Sunset Vista. As
Sure.
far as,
Okay,
sorry.
well, so out 19th?
So we kind of went over just a conceptual pathway. So right now, the discussion we had was if you come from Sunset Vista, you will cross Highway 41 to the east side. You will go south to Lacey Boulevard, and then you'll go east on Lacey Boulevard to where 19th Avenue alignment would intersect. And then we take it through that property all the way out to Glendale, and then Glendale over to that lift station at the corner of Liberty and Glendale.
Okay, yeah,
And water being the same path.
well, yeah, right,
Yeah.
because that sounds good, because that takes in all that open land up there one of these days that might come into the city, yeah.
Yes, and we've had some, some discussions with the property owner, and he's for it. So we're gonna
Okay,
further those discussions with the property owners.
did you talk to the Carreros?
Yes,
That's
sir.
who they talked to.
Yes.
Okay,
Are any of those fees that we would incur for upsizing the line, are those reimbursable down the line from any impact fees or?
Yes, they would be. Yes,
Okay.
they would be paid for by the developer. Yes.
good. And these two gentlemen are from the self-help? Good.
Yes, sir.
All right, just a point of order. I serve on the South Fork Kings GSA for the city. And I'd sure like to talk with you after the meeting. Okay. Thank you.
I have a quick question about billing. So they would be on the city municipal services. So they would either come into our city office to bill or to pay their utility bills or online or what have you. It would be set
They
up
would
the same
probably
with
have the
everyone else?
choice. Yeah, there'd be one meter. So we'd have one
Oh, I
large
see.
line with one meter, and that's what we'll just read every month, and then, we'll.
So
Our
it'd be
guys,
the actual park that would be responsible for it, not the.
they'll have
individuals.
whether they have their separate services on their own meters, I don't know, but we would just have one big meter at the property line.
Gotcha.
Good.
Any other questions from council?
No.
Any questions from the public?
Thank you.
I think it's a great
Thank you, sir.
plan.
Moving on to public comment. Public comment will be in accordance with the attached policy. This time is reserved for members of the audience to address the city council on items of interest that are not on the agenda and are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. It is recommended that speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes each, and it is requested that no comments be made during this period on items on the agenda. The council is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda. Prior to addressing the council, any handouts for council will be provided to the city clerk for distribution to the council and appropriate staff. The public will have an opportunity to comment on items on the agenda once the item has been called and the mayor opens the item to the public. Is there any public comment?
My name is Rosa Maria Jaramillo and Leroy Griffith. When we're representing the Lemoore Citizen Center here in Lemoore. And we're coming here to the meeting to ask for your help. Because our property or the senior citizen building is right next to the golf course. And we're having problems with the fence. So we're asking and see if the city members would assist us with that problem.
What's the
help us.
problem?
Okay, the problem is the golf balls, it's coming right into the yards where we have events. And there were several times I'm walking by and the balls will fly by. And so, I mean, it's gonna be dangerous, it's gonna hurt somebody when we practice.
Are you talking about the fence or is this like a netting that?
Well, we need the net to keep the balls from coming in. We are having a lot of them jumping our fence, you know, because they're coming in, hit the balls. And so,
Oh, the golfers jump in the
the
fence.
golfers, yes.
Maybe we need better golfers.
Hey, I've hit that building once.
That's what I've been telling them. Get up there, golf, do a great job. But yes, I mean, it's getting bad now. The manager over there is working with us and really nice person. He said that if, you know, once we start having outside fans, that he will try to locate the tee off, you know, try to keep them from lobbing over seniors.
So is the fence a problem or is the fence and the netting a problem?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Both, yeah.
And it's hitting the building, that's the
golf.
problem shoots. We currently have like some kind of mesh on the windows. But the whole side of the building, because it has some kind of concrete paneling, there's holes all over that wall. And we're concerned for our seniors and their cars because sometimes the windows are broken and it's beginning to be a problem.
And we did get grants, 1.5 grant to build or to redo the building. And now we got big holes all over it. And it's hitting our air conditioning up on top of the buildings. And so now we're gonna have to, we had somebody up there, they said we're gonna have to go ahead and get cages to put around it for keeping them in from in.
So we need your help.
Last meeting, we had the golf people talk about doing something to do with netting, did we not?
Yes, we're working with him to see if we can help get the netting up. Sounds like we need to do it right away. It's happening all the time. We can definitely talk to him about how quickly we can get that up and talk about the fence and the damage already done to the building with him as well.
Thank you so
Do
much.
do you know, do you have a cost for the fence? Do you know any of
We
the
don't.
costs?
No, not at this time,
Huh.
but we could get one.
We can get an estimate and come to the next meeting and bring you one.
We'll have you connect with Mr. Northcroft
Yeah.
if that's
Help
okay.
me figure out some out.
Well, thanks for coming down.
Thank you
Okay,
so
thank you.
much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Oh, I thought you had a public
Man, I was
comment.
like, what is going on?
I was like, whoa.
Wow, Frank's got a public comment.
Any comments online? No? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to department and city manager reports.
Let's start with our police chief. If he's not too tired of talking.
Yeah.
Good evening again, Mayor and council members. I got a few things, quite a few things. We participated in the First Responders Expo out at Lemoore College. It was a very well attended event. A lot of law enforcement agencies, or first responder agencies, I should say. We're out there. We held a canine demonstration out there and had several of our specialty assignments and their equipment out there as well. Next Wednesday, May 15th at 10 a.m. is the Kings County Peace Officer Memorial Ceremony. It's held at the Kings County Government Center and is open to the public, free event. As part of the military equipment use policy that I brought to you guys a couple meetings ago, we have to hold a public meeting. That meeting is being held this Friday at 9 a.m. So if anybody from the public would like to talk to us about our military equipment, feel free to attend that meeting. And then the last thing I wanted to put out, and you guys are probably already aware of, as well as several of our citizens, somebody very unfortunately is going around town at late hours of the night, early morning hours, and lighting off fireworks. We are aware of it. We would encourage those from the public that may know who this person or persons are to report it. If you know which house it's coming from, that's all we need, is to know which house it's coming from, and we can issue them the appropriate citation per our municipal code. But with that being said, I will leave it at that. That's that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And I think our Public Works Director, Frank Rivera, has a couple of things.
Yeah, tonight, we're doing the notice of completion for the striping project. All the reflectors are complete, the striping's done, so that is on the agenda for notice of completion. We are just doing final plan review for the 2024 street maintenance projects that are going to occur, so they'll be going out to bid probably within the next probably 2 to 3 weeks. And those will happen, sometime in summer, midsummer. And then as Chief mentioned, I did meet with the tower contractor this afternoon. The tower will be fully erected to the 120-foot elevation tomorrow, and they'll just probably have some minor grading, so they will be done, if not by end of day tomorrow, Thursday for sure. The structure would be standing. So that's all I have for you.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, I wanted to just mention we are publicizing as of today the 2 town halls about the city's financial challenges, May 16 and June 12, next door at the Civic Auditorium. Encourage anybody interested in that subject to join us there. The mayor will be moderating, and myself and the chief will be presenting. Also speaking in May to the Lions Club and in June to the American Legion regarding that same subject. And the survey of our community that took place over the last month will be receiving a full report from the survey company at our next meeting on May 21st. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to consent calendar. Item 4-1, approval minutes, regular meeting, April 16th, 2024. 4-2, approval notice of completion striping project. 4-3, approval investment report for quarter ended March 31st, 2024. 4-4, approval denial of claim for how do you say that? Uribe. 4-5, approval appointment of Lemoore Parks and Recreation Commissioners. Would anyone from council like to pull any of those items? Which ones?
4.3 and 4.4.
Any other items? I'd like to pull 4-5, actually. Is there anyone from the public that would like to pull any of the remaining 2 items? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and bring it back to council for approval of 4-1 and 4-2.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Orth and a second by Councilmember Gornick. Councilmember Orth,
Yes.
Councilmember Gornick,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Lyons,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Those passed 5-0. 4-3, did you have a specific?
Yeah, I'd like somebody to come to the podium and explain that to us. So it's a matter of public record.
4-3.
Investment report.
Yes, our finance manager, Jocelyn is here.
Yay, Jocelyn.
I know you could do it, Jack.
Hard to read. Thank you. So Optimized has taken over, helping us with investing our funds. We've only been with them for the month of March for about 2 weeks. And we're already seeing, significant improvement in our investments here. They break it down for us. I think if you can go to the next page. Showing what our interest is looking like already, an improvement of $90,000 in our interest revenue in the last 2 weeks that we have been with them. And we've earned $276,000 in our third quarter so far. We are on track to meet our estimated revenues for the year with them. So as of right now, we're looking pretty positive. Do you have any specific questions?
So what do you intend to do with those dollars that we get in terms of interest revenue?
We still have to break it down in order to see how much the general fund is going to get from that. So until I can do that evaluation over the next couple of weeks, then I can come back with a solid answer for that.
Does it go into a general fund or does it go into a reserve?
It's
Goes into-
prorated. Into our 70, I think we have 70 funds. So we have 22
Every
landscaping
fund gets
and
their proportionate
and
share
district.
based on their cash balances at the time of each quarter end. And those monies get deposited directly into investment income, into the revenue account.
Into those accounts?
Mhm.
Okay. Including what we had in the reserve too, that we get their proportionate share.
At the end of the year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Citywide, we're expecting to get about $2.4 million in interest income in the next 12 months. Unfortunately, about 300 or 400,000 of that goes to the general fund. A lot of it goes to the enterprise funds and the special funds that we have, but
Yeah.
everybody gets their fair share of the
Yes.
interest.
So you want to explain a little bit about the laddering approach there, how they're working that and how those are.
To be honest, that is not my expertise at this time. I would like to come back to you with those answers. I could reach out more to Optimized. This is new to me.
I think that would be great because we've never done this before, have we?
No.
Okay.
Basically, we have 45 investments that about every month, one is coming due. So we have liquidity where we need it. But they also, I've been very impressed with them. This week, they notified us that they saw a couple 100,000 that they thought we could do a better investment and advised us to move it over to a higher interest account. They're monitoring that very closely in terms of the times of years that most cities, including ours, have surplus money coming in, like the property tax, and other times where we have outflow because of more expenses than revenues. So just very
Correct.
impressed with how well they do that. 45 investments almost every month. One is coming due over the next 4 to 5 years. So
Yeah, we
have liquidity, but also a high interest return on our investments.
We have 45 million that's sitting in long-term investments, and that's various CDs in federal investments there. And then we have about 26 million more in the short term that are accessible immediately. If something were to happen, we needed to pay out something very large that we could access today.
All right. So we're, so Kevin, would you explain what this company did for us and how we identified these funds and what a lot of cities are doing with respect to that?
Well, I think they recognize that we were having way too much of our funds in either lower interest or non-interest bearing accounts. And they, because they've worked with a lot of cities and special districts, they have a good understanding of the cash flow that a city needs during the year and what investments, what safe investments they can make for us. and have really set out this 5-year plan of 45 different investments and different maturity rates so that if we don't need the money when it comes due, we can obviously reinvest it. If we need it, it's available to us. So we'll hopefully never run short of cash.
But I think it's important that, those are 46 million and another 24 million or whatever that number was. Those are big numbers.
Mhm.
And, I guess my point is just for the public to be aware of what's being invested in and what kinds of instruments and how safe they are and things like that. I think that'd be great.
Okay, we can definitely, they'd be happy, I'm sure, to come and make a presentation.
Good. Thank you.
It's amazing that 6 months ago, our city has made $276,000 in money that the citizens have. It's all of our money. Now it's making, that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much, because that weird.
Our
How
last
we wouldn't
quarter
have done that.
investment that we received
Yes.
with Leaf was only 160,000 for the last quarter
I didn't hear the
itself.
first part.
The last quarterly investment currently, before we made this change with Optimize, Leaf was our only means of investment. In the last quarter, we only received 160,000, which is still, a significant number, but compared to what we are now making in a matter of, like you said,
2 weeks.
2 weeks, it's a significant difference.
Yeah. Good.
Day and night.
Mhm.
LAIF is the local agency investment fund, which is kind of the state's savings account. But they've turned us on to safe investments that even return about 140 basis points above LAIF currently. Optimize has done what I consider a fantastic job for us, but certainly Jocelyn and a little bit of me spent a lot of time trying to set all this up, including trying to make phone calls from a cruise ship in the Atlantic. So
Any other questions from council?
Now, part of that report, is it gonna break down? Do you think you'll be able to break down to show of the 45, not the 45 investment, of the different accounts, how much each account earned? Would that be possible? Or no? Or is that
we
too
we
much?
could estimate it. It's based on the amount of funds in each account. So-
Yeah, that's just ballpark,
Okay.
Mhm. So we will be changing, I know something that we've been talking about currently right now, every council meeting, we present to you the accounts payable edit list to show what was paid out for the last cycle. And we no longer think that that is, an appropriate means, for information. So I will be moving forward with presenting on a monthly basis a revenue and expenditure report for the funds, which would better show, you could see those each quarter as we earn those.
I'm looking at that, the document we got for this board meeting, on those accounts, you had, the descriptors of, trying to find my page here. And I was just wondering, do you have a legend of the different kinds of descriptors? And I'm thinking of, it's, customer deposits, building permits, supplies, et cetera. I'm thinking of one other sheet here. In the ledger, it would say, contract, or it would say,
Professional services. is what you're
professional
talking about.
services like
Yeah.
that.
Yes, so it will break it down per category. Mhm.
In a little more detail, yeah. I mean, like.
Not
professional-
line items, but just for professional contracts, we paid out, 500,000.
Right,
This is where we're at for
Okay.
year to date. Mhm,
but I guess what I'm wondering is, because I saw a lot of professional contracts in there.
mhm.
And so I was just wondering how many professional contracts we have, or is it the same vendor and it's every month that it's a, professional contract?
Oh, that would be a separate,
Yeah, it's nothing urgent. I was just, in terms of looking at it, if there could just be a little more clarity to it.
Mhm.
Think about that, so.
Would the warrant still be available on the website, or would it just be in that report that?
is that something that you still would want?
Well, that's we're gonna present a suggestion to you in the next couple
Gotcha.
meetings on that. It'll be up to you to decide whether you want us to give to that. The thought is that we could present budget status to date over, under where we are in the major categories, which seems a lot more significant than looking at a $25 check that we wrote for petty cash, which is the laundry list of warrants.
Any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and bring it back to council. Is there a motion to approve 4-3?
Motion to move, approved
Second.
4-3. Good job, Jocelyn.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Lyons and a second by Councilmember Garza. Councilmember Lyons?
Yes.
Councilmember Garza?
Yes.
Councilmember Orth?
Yes.
Councilmember Gornick?
Yes.
And I vote yes, passes 5-0. 4-4, approval denial of claim for Miss.
So we got we got an email today that can clarify that.
Uh-huh.
And so have we cleared communication with our company that provides that service for us and water?
So, sorry, what exactly are you asking, if whether or not this information has been provided to specialized, the SUSP, their contractor?
Right.
I will ask.
I
defer
mean,
to
have
the-
we,
Well, we're asking to deny the claim and have it referred to them. Because
It's my understanding that the recommendation is to deny the claim and to tender the claim to SUSP, which is the contractor.
because they operate for us, and we communicated that to Mrs. Ruby.
It has,
well, the rejection will,
Yeah, but I mean, do we indicate?
that we are
where she needs to-
tendering it, yes.
we will tender it, upon the approval of the council to reject the claim.
Great.
Any other questions from council? Any questions from the public? I'll go ahead and bring it back to council.
So move.
I have a motion by Councilmember Gornick to approve 4-4.
Second.
A second by Councilmember Lyons. Councilmember Gornick.
All right.
Councilmember Lyons.
Yes.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
Councilmember Orth.
Yes.
And I vote yes, passes 5-0. 5-4, I don't know if both of the candidates are in the office. It's kind of our office. But I wanted to give them an opportunity to maybe speak if they wanted to.
One of them is.
I think, yeah.
Look who it is.
It's Jonathan.
Yeah. The real reason why I came here,
Oh,
no,
what?
he didn't pay me or anything. Right? Just want to introduce myself, Jonathan Brewster, lifelong Lemoore resident. Been a part of Lemoore Youth Baseball for 20+ years. Yes, I work at the sheriff's office. Yeah, just ready to get to work. Ready to go.
Good.
I've been looking at it for a little while, did a presentation back in the day for it. And yeah, so.
You
Right.
kind of know the town a little bit better than that, don't you? Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. What was your dad do?
Oh, well, yes. So my family's been here a very long time. My dad was part of the Lemoore Volunteer Fire Department for about
Woohoo,
15
Wayne.
years. Yeah, everybody knows Wayne. Worked at Bob Williams before it became the tractor place and now Shaw's AC. So back when Bob Williams was at the old brick building across from the movie theater.
Well, look at you.
So yeah, aging myself, but I'm only 32, so it's all right.
Right on, Mr.
Yeah.
Brewster.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I don't see the other applicant. I just wanted to make him feel uncomfortable, actually, so.
Oh, yeah.
just breaking him in. No, I'm kidding.
Public speaking.
I don't think you can make Jonathan uncomfortable.
Oh, he was uncomfortable, I guarantee.
Any other questions or comments from council? Any questions or comments from the public? I'll go ahead and bring it back and entertain a motion to
Motion to
Second.
approve.
approve 4-5. I have a motion by Councilmember Orth and a second by Councilmember Gornick. Councilmember Orth,
Yep.
Councilmember Gornick,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Lyons.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, passes 5-0.
Congratulations. Good luck.
There's no public hearings. Move on to no new business. Move on to city council reports and requests. Councilmember Garza.
No report tonight. No report tonight.
Wow. Councilmember Ward.
I'll do no too.
Do y'all go anywhere to your commissions? Are you going to those things?
I do.
Okay, just checking. Councilmember Gornick, I know you have something.
No, I don't think I do. I'm good.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I'm gonna make up for it.
Oh,
We know.
Yeah.
that's why we passed.
That's why we don't pass.
So I did attend the Leadership Summit a couple weeks ago in Sacramento with League of California Cities. It was a great session, as always. Learned a lot, met more council members from other areas than I knew previously. So it was good connections, good networking. I also attended the Little League fundraiser baseball game at Fresno State versus San Jose State, which was a great game. The weather was a lot better than last year, so that was a plus. I also attended the DA's Victim Rights Quilt Unveiling event, which was a pretty emotional service. If you've never attended one of those, it's very important in the healing process for some of the victims. So very important event. Also attended the Every 15 Minutes, which was put on by Lemoore Police Department, Sheriff's Department. No, not Sheriff's Department. Well, the coroner. So I guess Sheriff's Department, Fire Department, Lemoore Volunteer Fire Department, CHP, and the ambulance company, I believe, and of course the high school. It happens every 2 years in Lemoore. It's open for juniors and seniors as a way to kind of like what MAD was back in the day, to just kind of educate them on the effects of drinking and driving. I attended the grand jury open house along with City Manager Northcraft. Thank you, grand jury, for opening up your open house for us. You were very gracious hosts, so thank you so much.
You give me swag from these guys?
We got a cookie. They were pretty good cookies too. I'll have to know who that vendor was. Those were good. I also attended and helped build beds for the Lemoore Rotary Sleep in Heavenly Peace, their bed building event that they had, which was always amazing and fun. I attended the high-speed rail info meeting. I'm not sure exactly what that was called, but they wanted the public's input on maybe some things to have at the station, or how, like, kind of giving the community, it seems like, ways to put our thoughts and wants and needs into that building. We'll see if that happens when they come back, but they said they took it into consideration, so we'll see. I also attended the Big Brothers, Big Sisters end of year celebration at Cinnamon Elementary, also along with our interim city manager, Kevin Northcraft, who was a big brother back in the day. So that was kind of awesome for him to be there. I had a Zoom meeting with the now current number 5 UFC fighter, Alex Perez. So he is very interested in being involved in the community. He calls Lemoore his home. As anybody that watches UFC will know, that he proudly says Lemoore is his hometown. So looking forward to building that relationship and finding ways for him to come back and give back. This morning, I had my first radio interview on KKDJ. I found out I'm not a good radio interviewer. I'm a little bit too polite, apparently, to talk on the radio. You just talk over each other. But Zoom has kind of conditioned me not to talk over people, because if you do, you don't hear anything. So maybe my next one will be a lot better. We'll see. But that was interesting and got some information out about Lemoore. This week I will be attending with PG&E the Moss Landing tour, which is their battery storage facility in the Monterey area. So I'm looking forward to that. And also this Saturday is Kings Lions Agave Fest. Formerly it was the Brew Fest. So if you haven't got your tickets, that should be a fun event. So that's all I have for that. We'll go ahead and move on to closed session. We have item 1, Government Code Section 54957, Public employee employment title, city manager. Item 2, Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with labor negotiator, agency designated representatives, Crystal Paisano, city attorney, and Kevin Northcraft, interim city manager. Employee organizations, General Association of Service Employees, Lemoore Police Officers Association, Lemoore Police Sergeants Unit, Police Professional Services Bargaining Unit, and unrepresented. Item 3, Government Code Section 54956.8, conference with real property negotiators, property 215 Hanford Ramona Road, Lemoore, APN 021-380-002, agency negotiator Kevin Northcroft, interim city manager. Negotiating party, Michael Kennedy, under negotiation, price and terms. So we'll go ahead and adjourn into closed session. Thank you.